If you're planning to study in Europe, I'm going to save you from a mistake that costs thousands of euros to many Latin Americans, choosing between a public or private university as if Europe worked the same way as Latin America. Because here, public doesn't always mean cheap, private doesn't always mean better, and in some cases you can end up with a degree that doesn't help you work or continue studying at all. In this video, I'll explain, straight to the point, the real difference between public and private universities in Europe, how official recognition works, what changes in terms of costs and bureaucracy, and what you should check before paying tuition or moving to another country. Hello, foreign friends. I'm Nicole and I'm part of the LivinEurope team, where we help people from Latin America and other countries understand what migrating to Europe is really like. Studies, visas, real costs, and strategies that actually work. If this kind of content is useful to you, subscribe to the channel because every week we upload practical videos so you don't make blind decisions. And remember, at LivinEurope, we offer free personalized consultations. But to access them, you need to message us on Instagram, where we'll send you the conditions. If this kind of content is useful to you, subscribe to the channel because every week we upload practical videos so you don't make blind decisions. And remember, at LivinEurope, we offer free personalized consultations. But to access them, you need to message us on Instagram, where we'll send you the conditions. Now, let's get to the key point. In Europe, the public versus private conversation doesn't work the same way as in our countries. What really matters here isn't just whether a university is public or private, but whether the program is official, whether the degree is recognized by the state, whether it allows you to work or continue with a master's or PhD later, and how all of this connects to your visa and migration plan. That's why, before comparing prices or prestige, you first need to understand how the European university system is organized, and only then make a smart decision. What does public university really mean in Europe? When we talk about public universities in Europe, we're not talking about something that's free for everyone, as many people imagine. A public university is funded and regulated by the state, but that doesn't mean it doesn't charge tuition, especially for international students. In countries like Italy, Poland, the Czech Republic, or Romania, public universities usually have much lower costs than private ones, and in some cases tuition depends on your income, country of origin, or the language of the program. The biggest advantage is that their degrees are automatically recognized by the state, which makes it much easier to work, continue studying, or move to another European country. What are private universities really like in Europe? Private universities in Europe work very differently from those in Latin America. Not all of them are elite, and not all of them are bad. Some are very well positioned, but others exist mainly as a business. The key difference is that private universities can freely set their prices, and many charge much higher tuition without offering a real advantage in recognition, employability, or migration options. The most common mistake is thinking that paying more means an easier process or a stronger degree. In Europe, that is not always true. The critical point almost nobody checks: whether the degree is official. This is one of the most serious mistakes we see at LivinEurope. It's not enough for a university to exist or have nice campuses. What really matters is whether the program is official and accredited by the country's Ministry of Education. In Europe, there are own degrees, internal programs, or non-regulated programs that may be useful for personal training, but don't always allow you to work, validate your degree, or access a residence permit later. This happens in private universities and, in some cases, even in public institutions with special programs. How does this directly affect your student visa? The university you choose doesn't just affect your degree, it directly affects your immigration status. To obtain a student visa, authorities require the educational institution to be officially recognized. If you choose an institution that doesn't meet immigration requirements, you may face visa rejections, complicated renewals, or problems extending your stay. Many people only discover this after they've already paid tuition and arrived in the country, which makes everything much harder. Real costs: tuition, living expenses, and expensive mistakes. Another thing almost nobody explains is that the cost isn't just tuition. In many private universities, in addition to paying more to study, you end up paying more to live because they're often located in expensive cities or don't give access to public student housing. In public universities, especially in Central and Eastern Europe, the balance between low tuition and moderate living costs makes the whole project much more sustainable. The problem is that many students choose based on marketing, not real numbers, employability, and how useful your degree really is. In Europe, the job market highly values whether your degree is officially recognized and compatible with the local system. In many fields, especially health, engineering, education, or science, studying at a recognized public university makes internships, validations, and access to jobs much easier. On the other hand, some private degrees don't open doors, especially if the program isn't aligned with European standards. This is not about public versus private, but about how useful your degree is if you want to stay in Europe after graduating. Why isn't there one single answer for everyone? Here's the truth. There is no perfect university for everyone. There are profiles for which a specific private university makes sense, and others for which a public university is clearly the best option. It all depends on your budget, language, migration goals, chosen country, and long-term plans. The real problem is making this decision without understanding the European system and without comparing real scenarios. How do we see this at Live in Europe? At Live in Europe, we see students every day who arrive frustrated because they made the wrong choice from the beginning, not because they lacked motivation, but because they lacked clear information. That's why we always say, before choosing a university, you need to choose a strategy. University, visa, country, and life plan must fit together as a whole, not as isolated decisions. To close, remember this key idea. In Europe, it's not about choosing between a public or private university because one is better than the other. It's about understanding which type of university fits you, your budget, your migration goals, and what you want to do after graduating. Many students fail not because Europe is difficult, but because they choose without understanding the education system, the validity of the degree, or how it affects their visa and future career. Choosing correctly from the start can save you years, money, and frustration. At Live in Europe, that's exactly what we help with. We're offering free personalized consultations where we analyze your academic profile, budget, language, and goals to tell you which country makes sense for you. To access this free consultation, message us on Instagram and we'll send you the conditions to participate. And now I'll leave you with a question. Would you like the next video to compare public and private universities country by country? Or would you prefer one focused only on mistakes when choosing a university in Europe? Leave it in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe for more real content about studying and living in Europe, and see you in the next one.